Ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, weavers of all races and subclasses, welcome to This Dungeon is Occupied. My name is Illidean, and together with Thorn and Brian as your hosts, we wish to help you as players and game masters, or as we say, story weavers, from the aspiring to the veteran with questions, ideas, and interviews for your next tabletop role-playing game experience. So grab a beverage, sit with us, and remember, steal everything, and have fun. Today, we are graced with the presence of royalty. A professional dungeon master with over 600 paid game sessions, a best-selling TTRPG writer, author of the platinum best-selling work She is the Ancient, A Gender-Brent Curse of Strahd, writer for Dungeon in a Box and Modifius, web designer, layout artist, blogger, educator, and the horror-loving Ravenloft queen herself. Please welcome Beth the Bard.
And that was so much that you said.
It's a mouthful.
But we have somebody else here as a special surprise bonus that we literally didn't know about until 2 minutes ago. We are also graced by an advocate for inclusion and diversity in gaming, a narrative designer and live performer with a background in acting and directing films and live theater. They will be helping us learn to provide cinematic storytelling in our games. Please welcome their blackness, their queerness, their kingliness, Jayden King.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The red carpet has been rolled.
Thank you both for coming on. This is awesome. The reason why you guys are on, obviously you guys are well established. You guys are great people in the D&D community as it is, with your inclusivity, with your teaching and your backgrounds in coaching. But today we are talking about Daughter of Frankenstein, and I want to kind of just give the floor to the two of you. I know a lot about Daughter of Frankenstein because I've already read the entire Kickstarter. I'm going to be, as soon as payday happens this Friday, I'm going to be getting the digital copy of it, and all of us have agreed that we're going to be playing that one shot, just playing everything about it. So the floor is yours. A small intro for Daughter of Frankenstein.
Jay, I feel like you should do this because you are super good at talking.
You want me to lead it off?
Absolutely, babe. Go for it.
I just want to make a point that I also did not know I was going to be on here until about 4 minutes ago. So I have like a 2-minute head start. Okay.
That's all you need. So, that's more than enough.
Daughter of Frankenstein. To explain it, I first want you to take a thought. Science, we know it, we experience it all around us. But we ever consider the idea that what if science was taken back? If our phones were sent back? If our computers were sent back, would that not be supernatural? Let's travel through the essence of Frankenstein's deranged science to challenge not just what nature has done, but what nature could attain. Frankenstein is the monster as well as the scientist, but what legacy he leaves is for his daughter to determine. It takes the idea of this dark opera and weaves a tale through the scientific horror and the supernatural occultism in a way that establishes horror through the act of science itself. You get to explore the essence of a dark academia and stories we understand, the serial killings in a city, but protected by those with money, who, if it doesn't affect the bottom line, it doesn't matter who hit 6 feet under. But when death continues to build and flourish, there is no more room in hell, and the dead return to walk amongst the land. The creations of Frankenstein roam the wilds beyond the wall, and darkness starts to seep inside of every pocketbook, every society, and the heart of every individual. And those monsters become what you explore through Daughter of Frankenstein, where created monsters stitched together, beings who choose to spend money to find power that they should not mess with. And every waking moment is a nightmare in which science continues to evolve and people are failing to do so.
Wow.
Okay.
So yeah, Beth, follow that.
See, this is why I bring him everywhere. I was gonna say, it's a campaign, 10 parts inspired by Frankenstein, but like his kid, and occult and horror and bears that can scream like humans, and Kickstarter.
Okay, so this is an easy one.
for those of our listeners that haven't read the Kickstarter, unlike us, and I am completely in love with this.
Yes.
List out some of your inspirations. Let's list out the stuff that really inspired you to go with this kind of horror, body horror type of thing.
It kind of depends on where within the setting too, because got a little map there.
Mhm.
Within the city, there's a lot of inspiration. We were talking about earlier. Penny Dreadful is a huge one in the way that like magic, as it can appear, does appear. Very give and take with that dark energy kind of stuff. So Penny Dreadful, Jack the Ripper, of course. Very inspired by the movie in particular, From Hell with Johnny Depp. I saw it, was like, oh, this is definitely it's coming in. The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There is I can't say, but it's so cool. Regarding that, Resident Evil, minus the modernization of it, and I haven't played the Resident Evil games other than Village, which obviously there's inspiration pulled from that. But when I say Resident Evil inspiration, I'm actually referring to this, the TV show that they made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, some of the concepts from that have been pulled in. What am I missing, babe? I'm on the spot.
Okay. And this is where I come in and do what I do.
Yeah.
We have a collective list of inspirations because it is a dark opera. We take the idea that it's Victorian.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes, Full Metal Alchemist. So it takes all those elements along with Phantom of the Opera and the idea that it's that Victorian style shadow theater. And what if the story was told in that Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, and Tim Burton's that uncanny nature of cinematography, but in a way that TTRPG. So the acts kind of hit their own inspirations. Where Act 1 is in the city, we have a lot of Penny Dreadful, Sherlock Holmes. For me, my inspiration put in was Full Metal Alchemist, the idea of alchemy being a magical science or magic with so much rules that it's basically science, and the Dishonored game series because of the way of the occultism inside of a city where money has pushed society down and now they're pushing back. Act 2 takes you outside of the city, so we have inspirations like Frankenstein, obviously, Annihilation, where the
Annihilation is like the wilderness is Annihilation. I saw that movie and I was like we had started writing the content for this setting, and Jay was like, oh, you should check out this movie. I feel like some of the stuff you're talking about is right in line with it. And we're watching it, I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. And that the artwork that I bought, particularly with the wolf, that's like, I got that because it reminded me so much of the bear in that movie. Yes, the mimic bear has a stat block.
Hell yes.
I worked to make the mimic bear. Yes, it was.
I was like, I have to have it. It has to be in there. That's it.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited.
See, and that's one of the things that I like that when I was looking at the Kickstarter is that y'all are putting a lot more effort than what I've seen, not to dog on any Kickstarter because they're all great. And, I've seen a lot of different creators do different things, but y'all are putting a lot of effort into not only the art, which is amazing, but doing those stat blocks and things, because nothing bothers me more than I've put in X amount of dollars into this thing and they're like, yeah, so these mimic bears exist. Okay, great. Well, where the fuck's the start block? Like, what? Give me a stat. I need something. What are you talking about? So having that is awesome. And I mean,
oh yeah, full bestiary.
Yeah. And oh god, I'm scrolling off to the side. You'll see my eyes kind of dart over. It's because I'm looking at the art on your Kickstarter side by side to my Zoom, and just some of the simplest things, like the right here in the one of the descriptor paragraphs, a cross between low-tech steampunk and gaslamp fantasy. You just have a watch and it looks like a cathedral. These things, they're simple, but they bring a lot of your inspirations to the audience who's looking at this Kickstarter, and I'm just super excited to see the final product when I get that digital copy in October of this year.
So, and I'm going to put it out there for all of our listeners, both of them, that we are personally, as individuals on this podcast, we are putting money into this Kickstarter.
Absolutely.
We beg you to do the same. Yes. This looks amazing. It's going to be so much fun to play. please, and I'm going to say this more than once.
Oh yeah. And you know what's cool? I do have to say, because obviously, hey, times are tough for some people. You guys are the first Kickstarter that I've seen that has a discounted digital PDF because of COVID. It's right there in the reward. This is the discounted PDF tier for disenfranchised groups and folks financially affected by COVID. It's a $5 discount, $25 to get you a digital PDF of this entire work, and the bonus that every book purchase includes a digital player guide to give to your group, and it includes all the in-book stretch goals. That one's huge.
The thing that I take from it is that these people are players.
Yeah.
They know, because this podcast, we go towards players and story weavers.
Right.
That's what we call dungeon masters and stuff like that, because we see it more as weaving a story together with your table than being a master over something. So the story weavers and the players, I mean, come on, we have a group that we've played with for years, and some of us were affected by COVID and some of us weren't.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that. So that tells me that you guys are players, and that's awesome to us. We love that.
Yeah.
Jay is a prolific player.
We have questions later for him.
Oh yeah.
I want to make a note on that thing, because we did that for very specifically because we like to play. And one thing that I've had trouble is I was hit hard by COVID, and being specifically a Black American, the game industry is hard for us to already participate in. And so we did two things to consider. One was making that we could try to give the discount for those that can't normally afford it, but also giving a player handout for every option, so that if the GM gets it, they don't have to say, hey, all my players have to get a copy. It's like, this is all you need. It comes with it to be like, hey, I want to run this for you. This is all you need. Because that's the other thing we realize, like having a full big book and giving it to each player, and they're like, what do I read? It's like, don't worry, this book is already for you, and it comes with it, because it's like, we want you to play together.
Oh, I was gonna say, and that was for me, because I actually don't get to play very often. It is
forever DM.
Maybe a couple times a year. Yeah, I'm a forever DM, but I'm a forever professional DM. So like I'm constantly like trying to put things like that together, and I was like, what is gonna make this easier for dungeon masters to like get their group together, get them sorted as quickly as possible. So yeah, the player guide is just going to be everything that they need from the main book, plus some extra stuff that's just for the players, and then character sheets and stuff. So yeah.
And that's the thing I was going to say, as a book nerd, it's nice to be able to have these handouts, because two things happen whenever I get a module. It's one, yeah, there's a handout, but it's freaking perforated in my book. I'm not tearing that page out. What are you,
Nobody
crazy?
wants to do that.
Like, my Tasha's puzzles are still in the book. I'm not touching that thing. So what do I have to do? It used to be Kinko's, but now I go to FedEx and, scan everything. Well, that costs extra. I've bought this book. Now I got to spend extra money to get my handouts for my players. And for somebody who was hurt, by COVID and things, like, you can't do that very often. And especially, for me now that I'm trying to become a professional dungeon master and do these things, I'm not going to be able to afford to go. I went to San Japan and did volunteer dungeon mastering. If I had a handout for the 50 people that I met, that I would be broke. There'd be nothing because it just costs too much. Even 10 cents a page is 10 cents a page. So you guys thinking about that and putting this in, and I mean, having, I'm reading it off here, the nearly 300 pages, fully illustrated, ADHD friendly, 10-part campaign. These are all things that not very many people think of, and I'm glad that it's becoming a bigger thing, because the likes of Brennan Lee Mulligan and Satine Phoenix and things, they've been talking about it more and more recently, and a lot of their YouTube videos, a lot of the like Brennan's podcast that was going on for a long time, he brought guests on that talked about inclusivity and neurodivergence and things like that. But that's new. I mean, Thorn and I have been playing for a long time, and I mean, Thorn, he can talk about how old he is, but during the Satanic Panic.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I played during the Satanic Panic.
But now, even when I was just starting, it wasn't necessarily Satanic Panic, except in like small pockets, but it was more like, oh, you're a jock, you shouldn't be a nerd also. Like, that's not a thing. And now we're being more inclusive, and we're adding these things. So having a Kickstarter that's like, hey, guess what? We thought about it all. Like, I don't know if I can can tell you guys enough how excited I am for your Kickstarter, period. But listeners like you, I mean, even there's a $1 reward tier. Just, if you can help put it out there, put it out there. And with Beth's and Jayden's permission, I would like to put your intro video. I can take it from Kickstarter and put it into our.
Here's a question for each of you. Out of all this creativity and stuff that you've done to create the Daughter of Frankenstein, who was your favorite NPC you put in there?
Good question.
Claudia.
That was fast.
Oh no, but also Bela Lugosi. Claudia and Bela Lugosi. I can't choose between the two. I love my NPCs so much.
Are you allowed to give a little bit of a description for our listeners who haven't maybe looked at the Kickstarter?
Yes, I'm like looking at Jay. How much am I allowed to share?
Yeah.
So
you should. They're fine. Go in both of them. It doesn't spoil anything.
Claudia is the owner of a cute little like apothecary herbal shop in the city. And I just love her a lot. She's got a familiar named Rosie, who's a little tarantula, and yeah, like there's stuff about her within the story, but she's just a very simple NPC with like a full family story and everything in here. I just adore her so much. But Bela Lugosi is our Igor, so to speak. Named Bela Lugosi because Bela Lugosi played the first Igor in film, which kind of set the precedence for Igors within the Frankenstein genre, which actually I don't even think was in the original book, so that was just a cinema edition. So Bela Lugosi. And I just love him so much. He's very adorable to me.
And Jayden, do you have any other favorites?
Mine's harder because I make a lot of the monsters. Like I do the mechanics, so I've made a bunch of like more so the creatures than the NPCs. Hey, so I'm like,
there's nothing wrong. You can say one of the monsters if you want. There's nothing wrong with that because my favorite NPC I've ever had was a big bad. She was amazing. She was amazing. And
okay.
Yeah,
I have a few, and it's the top. It's a split between. I have a stat block I made for a giant carionette. It's basically a mannequin, but it's custom statted. But it's a tie between that and my mummified spore archdruid.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
It is a custom stat block that also comes with. It's because of a custom subclass inspired in the same way using a very lament-based approach of psionics, basically a psychic druid. And I love that thing so much because it's a cute little spore zombie and it's so sweet until it's not. But then it also the third tie is our Inspector Hartman, who is Inspector Hartman is an investigator in the city of Berkeley Javert, who is dedicated to determine to prove that there's something wrong going on, but the rich are always like, "Oh, it's fine." But he's this very old man who people thinks unassuming, but he is ripped to shreds, like Master Roshi style. He walks around seeming old, and then he takes off his shirt, and he's just like, "Let's fight, I guess." And I love that so much. Yeah, that's what I got.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think that that's somewhere in here. The occasional serial murder here and there is of no concern to them or their pocketbooks, much to the dismay of Berkman's inspector. It's not too out of the ordinary. There is, after all, a history of body snatching that's well known, though unspoken of. That's
Your flavor text and describing everything was amazing. Was really amazing. That's like when we go through a lot of different books and we kind of talk about them and give little reviews on like the classes and stuff like that for D&D, and Tasha's by far is our favorite because of the flavor text.
Right.
The little blurbs that they say, it's amazing. They actually got it right with that one.
Yeah.
I love flavor text.
is so on par. Just the descriptions in your Kickstarter is amazing. I was thoroughly impressed, and I just fell in love with it after reading it for less than a minute. I fell in love with it.
Yeah, especially that intro video. I mean, that was well done for sure.
Very well.
That was the same soundtrack that I used for She is the I've only done one live streamed game that actual play, that's what they're called. I've only run one actual play because I'm very introverted. I do everything privately, but that was the exact same tune that I used for that before launching She is the Ancient. So I was like, obviously I have to use it for this because
of course. Yeah, it ties it in. And speaking of tying it in, how do our listeners who haven't found your Kickstarter already find your Kickstarter?
Just Frankenstein5e.com.
Nice and easy. And we'll put that into our our links on YouTube and TikTok and all these kinds of things. We're gonna put it out there. So that'll be great. I'm gonna switch topics just a little bit, but still in D&D. I'm gonna steal one from Thorn that he usually gives. But who or what was your first D&D character ever played?
Okay, I'm gonna go first. I played Astrid, a 3-foot tall gnome barbarian, because I like the idea of things that don't make sense. So I was like, obviously the tiniest thing and the most extreme.
That's me,
class.
exactly.
And then one of the other party members we decided they were proficient in gnome, so they used me as an improvised weapon and my mohawk. So that was before I really knew how to play D&D or anything. That was, we did what we wanted.
As one does. Jayden?
So I always get mixed up because I remember my first RPG character and I keep getting mixed up because it wasn't my first D&D because I started with 3.5 long ago. Not that long ago. It's like last week. Anyway, I think my first D&D character, if I have to remember, was very specifically Xander. It was my gender fluid half elf bard who had a focus on dancing because I was enjoying the idea of being a black half elf who used a quarterstaff to fight with and do all their bardic performances kind of like an exotic dancer to do that, and their specialty was to entertain gods, and their whole thing is they commune with any god by encapsulating in the performance. However, I always remember that character also got the GM, we put horseshoes of speed on their shoes, and I rolled poorly, and it turned my half elf bard into a satyr half elf half human who accidentally spoke goat. If I had to roll a d4 every time I tried to persuade, and there's a chance I would just meh instead of being charming. And I will always remember that because it plagues me to never mess with magic items inappropriately.
That's perfect.
I love it. I love that so much. It's just, it shows that our listeners that you don't have to take the magic items and use them like what they're supposed to be used for.
No.
Because I had a character way back in the day that was a rogue assassin that would assassinate people by putting them in a bag of holding.
Yes.
Honestly, that's what I do all the time.
Yeah, no, it's genius. So it's just like they would come up behind him and shove him in a bag of holding and wait like 20 minutes and then dump him out and walk away.
That's how I would do it in Assassin's Creed. If I just come up, be like, bag of holding. That way no one knows. Stealth maximum.
Oh, if they put that item into Assassin's Creed, it would be a done deal. I mean, already it's like, do I want to sneak or do I want to just kill everyone? Let's do both and just go through the fort, and I don't have to hide the body. I don't have to burn it, whatever. Just stuff.
And you can loot them later,
Yeah, just pull them out. Oh, that's mine. That's mine. Oh, pretty. That's
okay.
awesome.
So my next question is, I think I already know one answer on this, but for the listeners, out of all of the modules that are out right now, because you have created a gorgeous looking module yourselves, what would be your favorite module that's already out there?
You want to go first, babe?
No, I do not.
No? Okay. So I would probably have to say Curse of Strahd, obviously, because of she is the ancient. I don't like the original module. I like the changes that the community has made to it.
Yes.
But I love gothic horror and I love vampires. So I would have to say that's my number one, but I've also fallen very in love with Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Unfortunately, also not how it's supposed to be played. I have turned it completely into a horror story, so...
Oh, I so want... You need to send me that.
Man, yeah.
You need to send me that.
That would be amazing.
I really want to see that.
That is, it is a side project in the works, actually, putting all that together.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Jayden? I think I threw him in front of some headlights there.
I've been asked so many questions before. This is the first time someone's ever asked me my favorite module. Never, because I am notoriously, for those that do know, I don't run modules, nor do I typically play.
I don't either.
Because I do like modern elements in anime, so I have two of them, I guess. It's a tie between Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel and Dragonlance. However, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, because I make my own civilizations to go through that are anime inspired, but also Dragonlance, but that's because I love the animes like Seven Deadly Sins, and I give them guns so it feels like Trigun, and I'm like, those classic fantasy feels, but anime and Dragonlance gives me just enough ammunition to play with that. And so I think those would be where I'm at.
That's a great answer. You're actually talking to two guys that really like to take the actual modules and just change them completely. Both your answers are great because we tend not to take the modules on face value either. We like to change them.
Yeah.
So
our Horde of the Dragon Queen was a level 20 campaign. It was epic level.
It lasted 5 sessions.
Shut up. They don't have to know that. So just a really quick aside, Bone Daddy is all up into lore and loves D&D lore, and so when we're playing this game, it's level 20, it's whatever. We get to around Baldur's Gate, Horde of the Dragon Queen, the party is supposed to be looking for the crown of Tiamat and protecting it from the cult of the dragon, and Robbie was like, well, I mean, Robbie knows that the crown in Avernus is in Baldur's Gate, so could I roll a history check and see if my character, who was kind of a historian, can we see if he knows that it's there? I was like, well, I mean, yeah, sure, why not? Roll a history check and then roll a D100. He rolls a nat 20 on the history check and then rolls a 99 on the D100. I was like, yeah, your character fucking knows. Like, it's there. You want to visit the guy, I guess? I don't know. So they were like, yeah, so I just take the crown and I stuff it in the bag holding and I take it to Arc 1 character's safe. And how's that? And I I was like, well, campaign's over. Congratulations. You won the fucking
run
game.
D&D.
Just didn't know it was possible.
He really did. He really did.
Flip wall, cheat code, up, down, left, right. Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. So now I want to ask, because you guys play at least a lot professionally, and you guys have some games under your belt, 600, so let's say that I am a brand new story weaver or dungeon master and I bought my first book. What do I do?
Which book did you buy?
I bought the Dungeon Master's Guide because everyone asked me to be a dungeon master, and I don't know. I've never done it before. I've never role played. I don't know. I guess I want to play something, but I don't I don't have a money for a module. I mean, can you help me out?
Okay. Aside from not DMing, have you played? Do you have the player's handbook?
I have part of the player's handbook. I got it online. I found the PDF. It was somebody shared it. And I've only played one character for like a one shot at a local gaming store.
Okay. Read the player's handbook. That did more for me as a dungeon master. I'm gonna be real, I haven't read the whole Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm pretty sure it's all just magic items or something. The only thing I needed getting into DMing was the player's manual. And then creating a character from scratch, spending the whole damn hour going through with a pencil and paper, no D&D Beyond, build it from scratch. And that's going to help you really vibe with the different skills you can use and the ways that they go together and what a player might be interested in. Definitely try to play a few times and keep track of what makes you so excited in a game, because that's probably going to translate well for your table. And then fucking do it.
That's awesome.
Get people together and then just like do it, and it's going to be messy for the first 100 games, and it's still going to be messy after that. Like, just get used to it.
Facts. Anything to add, Jayden?
Oh, my advice is terrible.
Oh, I love terrible advice.
Oh, God.
That's the best.
That's the best.
So-
Yeah.
I'm curious, honestly. Here we go.
Well, let me first say, I want to double down on Beth saying the player's handbook. That's the only book you actually need to play D&D if you need a book. But I'm gonna double down and be like, you don't need any books. You don't need any dice. You don't need any of that. All
you
you
don't even need to like get a campaign. Just run an episode of TV you like.
That is it. Honestly, if you're trying to figure out how to get started, no one knows what you know. No one knows what you've prepared. No one knows anything except for what you know. And at that, choose your favorite movie, favorite show, favorite whatever, and just play that out and get comfortable telling a story. Then, once you feel comfortable telling a story, apply D&D to give you structure. I am more comfortable telling a loose-ended experience that we'll all have fun goofing about. And once you've got past that, you will find comfort in any module. I feel if you start off with too many mechanics, you get real used to it.
Very confused.
And it gets hard to flexible. My first time running, I didn't even know what D&D was, and me and my friends were playing fantasy experience with random. I was like, hey, what do you guys do if you do this? And you've all done it. The amount of times people have walked out of a movie and said, oh, if I was in that movie, I would do this. Well,
Hell yeah.
put that and then ask your players, in that scenario, what would you do? Move on. Voila. And then add on all the rules to give it structure for parts you were uncomfortable at. That's my advice.
That's perfect.
You are my hero.
Yes. So, I mean, you saw us, kind of doing some cheering in the background. And that's because part of our podcast, we have episodes that are called Steal Everything. And we roll a D6, and 1 and 2 is a movie, 3 and 4 is a book, and 5 and 6 is a song. And we roll the dice, we find what it's going to be, and then we just pick randomly. Like the last episode, we rolled on a song, and we made a small one-shot out of The Bird and the Worm from The Used. And that's just... It's something to get the creative juices flowing for us, but then it's cool content. And just like you said, Jayden, is they don't need anything to play this game, or really any tabletop role-playing game. You need a tabletop just to sit around and you role play and have fun. And snacks, that is important.
Yes, that is actually required. I do apologize.
And listen,
snacks are necessary.
Feed your DM, guys. That's important.
Feed
Please.
your DM.
That's the only payment that most of them will ever care about.
Now, along that same vein, we want to go to the next part of this interview, which we do with everybody. We try to do it for everybody if they agree. Is we make an NPC. We do something on our Patreon. It's called NPC of the Week, and we do it like a round robin. So we do whatever. It can be whatever you want. It could be we choose the race, the class. We choose what they do. It could be a shop owner. It could be a mercenary. It could be a stable boy. It's whatever you want. And we come up with an NPC to share with our listeners that they can use in their campaigns or not. It's whatever they want. And we just put them out there. They're not very long. They're pretty simplified. we just come up with a basic idea. So would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. Right.
Absolutely, positively.
You know, so
Question mark.
every time that we ask this question, I'm like, one of these days somebody's gonna make the joke and be like, no, let's just end the podcast and we gotta wrap this up real quick. And you're like, oh, sorry. Okay, moving on. One day it might happen. So the first question we'll come up with is going to be the occupation. I'd like to keep it, going with theme. Let's keep it a horror theme for the NPC. But Beth, can you come up with the occupation for this NPC?
Dentist.
Dentist?
Dentist.
Okay. I love that. Was so fast. I was like, I'm
just
gonna wait
thought
for the
of
answer.
The Little Shop of Horrors,
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay. Jayden, the hardest question ever for an NPC. What's the name of our NPC?
Oh, the name is going to be Teeter Louise.
Okay. Teeter Louise.
Teeter Louise.
Teeter Louise.
Okay. And Brian, what is Teeter Louise's race / species?
But we're keeping it in to keep it going as human.
Human? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And my favorite part, Thorn, what is this quirk for Teeter?
So Teeter Louise is this Italian dentist, and he has this quirk that he when he is working on his patients, he is constantly looking to the side because he actually sees something there. Nobody else can see it, but so he'll drill or he'll pick at the teeth and be like, just keep looking to the side and be like, every once in a while you hear a shh. Shh, shh. No. It's because he's seeing a pixie that is asking him questions constantly.
Okay.
And it's slowly driving him insane.
I like it. First of all, have to use the insanity charts for this.
Also, it's like Tooth Fairy.
I was thinking
bit.
that along the same vein. So the pixie of Teeter, this Tooth Fairy, every client that comes through, the pixie is going to ask like, "Hey, you gonna give me that tooth? Just the one, one molar, just one. Well, I only need one molar because you see, I can give them a magic item. Fuck it, I'll pay for it. It's fine. I just need, I need a collection. I have a stack of gold that I'm willing to trade for that one molar. The problem is that with all Fae, when you make a deal, it's not just the deal on the surface. And I think that's going to be where our players can encounter this dentist and the pixie is maybe the dentist finally breaks. He's finally hit that insanity point and he says, you know what? Fine. Flicks the molar at the Tooth Fairy and the Tooth Fairy becomes visible to the party. And the deal is set. What the deal is, only the DM knows. That's perfect. That is our blueprint for an NPC. For the listeners, you don't need much more than that. You can play with an NPC like this in damn near any game, but horror, you could take this in very many gruesome and fun ways.
We should just expand and put it in the book.
I already made a character. I made a playable character, Teeter Louise. I've already have ideas on the stats. The playable character, class.
Oh, you're gonna play as a character.
Yeah.
I'm playing as Teeter Louise one day.
When you do, shoot us an email because wherever it's at, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm making a subclass just for Teeter Louise because I already know the subclass.
What is it?
Yeah, they're like, what?
Think about it, right? Teeter Louise is a third generation dentist. It's been in their family for long. This fairy is not just what they deal with. Their granddad did, their father did, and it's now on to them because this is a patron that's just been waiting for someone. They've never had a warlock, and they just want one warlock, just one, so they can finally prove to their other pixies that they're worthy. And so now,
amazing.
They are now the bone lock.
The bone lock.
Oh,
Tito Luis, the bone lock,
I love it. I
Oh,
love that
man.
so much.
a bone-based warlock.
I just love that you could take that so many different ways, because you could play Teeter, upset that he's, a warlock now. He's like, I shouldn't have given
I
you
just
that
wanna be a
Muller, man.
dentist.
Yeah, I was making good money and now I'm in a fucking adventurer. Like, what are you, damn, that's, wow. Oh, I
That's
love that.
awesome.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that, Jayden.
You're gonna have to definitely shoot us like the whole stat block,
Please.
everything.
Yeah.
Please. I
If
really
I'm
want to
lucky,
see
I
that.
might get it done by tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
And just for kicks
Warlocks
and
are one of the
giggles,
easier subclasses.
sure.
I'm not gonna lie,
Yes.
for me.
Yeah. Just for kicks and giggles. Hey, Bone Daddy, now that you're listening. This is great. Thorn, do you want to give us, we're coming up on our time. Do you want to give us our wrap up question for both?
Yes. The one thing that definitely attracted all of us to this whole thing is the inclusivity of it all. We love that you put that to the forefront. We love that it's one of the main things about this whole Kickstarter and about this whole book and the stuff you've done in the past too. We just want to know, and we want you to tell our listeners what it means to you to have this inclusivity put into the stuff that you're doing.
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can take first lead.
So I feel like I've been pretty blatant about the lack of proper female representation in all D&D stuff across the board, as far as quote unquote luminaries and just people available to work with, as well as the content of campaigns. So I think it's getting better. I don't know, I haven't read any of the new stuff, but for me, I'm like, I'm tired of men being the default for everything and women being add-in support and stuff. So I always run full forward with trying to make sure that there's not just a balance of men and women, but there might even be a little bit more women in order to offset the fact that there's gonna end up being a bunch of accidental male NPCs and things like that pop up. It's just a thing. I've seen it. So that's where has been my main focus. And then Jay.
My focus has been with D&D, race has always been a complicated factor, particularly since like race is fantastical and colorization of it isn't applicable. For me, inclusivity is more about how the stories try to tell certain things. I believe that no story needs to have any form of slavery to drive a story forward. If it's a trope that's about suffering for Black people or for women, if it's TV does it to do a way to just show that colored people suffer and women suffer, the only way it's allowed to be kept in is if it changes the narrative to target white men. And I always make the point that if it's going to be someone suffering in that way, it's going to be them. But it's about making stories that help people see the details without feeling like they have to suffer through it again. We don't need race discrimination in the adventure, but you can have discrimination of sorts against magic, so long as it's not about the individuals. It's how you control the content, and not just in the content, but how it's portrayed. I mean, Beth is an amazing designer, and the book is laid out in a way that presents visual elements, and it's easier to read. The content is traversable. When you read, you're not trying to getting blurred out by a bunch of words, so you can actually get the point of it, and making sure that the story feels real without forcing pain that isn't necessary. For those that want to escape and for those that want to experience for growth, suffering doesn't have to be the core component. It's about collaboration and community. And that's what it comes down to. If you can build that larger and not focus it on your table, it's one of those think at your table, but act globally.
I love
He's
that.
the words guy of us. I'm the pictures person, So like, he's very eloquent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jay.
Yeah, and
What he said.
we at our table we've got a lot of people of the rainbow and things, and It's never been really a problem for our table, but I know and I've met people that have talked about it being a huge problem at a lot of their tables, and having to unfortunately leave groups because they felt uncomfortable. And I think that hopefully you guys will agree. I think the biggest thing that we like to tell our listeners is that session 0 and the lines and veils that you produce up front and say, hey, I'm not cool with this. Can we play something a little bit different? Can we, and working with not only the DM, but the rest of your players, and saying this is a different way, a workaround to that suffering that you were talking about. I think that's the biggest thing. And so when I saw that in y'all's bio, that was, the Kickstarter aside, I wanted to get you guys on for that. And so again, thank you guys for coming on. Really.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully, we'll keep in contact, especially through social media, because I'll be commenting on Beth's Instagram and TikToks all over the place and trying to up the algorithm a little bit, for the Kickstarter. But maybe after the Kickstarter, of course, maybe after the Kickstarter, we can get together and do a part 2 to this, or who knows, maybe make
Just to see
another
where
NPC or something,
Yeah, just to see where you guys are at and how everything went. Definitely, we need to get you back after the release and everything. After you guys aren't so busy, get you back on and see how things go.
I would love
Totally
to do
down.
an unboxing with you guys, because
yeah.
we're going to be getting the hardbacks. So if you guys are down for it, once October hits and we start delivering and things, I would love to do an unboxing with you guys. I don't know if it'll be
down.
I don't know if it'll be live, but maybe at least a recording of that unboxing. So
And fun fact, I put the date on that I put on because they say, set expectations and deliver early.
Mhm.
The book's written, it's already it's not gonna take that long to get it.
Look at that.
So-
See, listeners, so you have to get it. The Kickstarter officially ends at the end of March, so get it now. There you go.
Yep.
And with that, ladies and germs, theys and thems, remember to check your dungeons, because this dungeon is occupied.